Yakuza Zero has been a big success for Sega. Yakuza's never been the kind of game to square up against COD or FIFA, but it finally seems like a considerable niche is being carved out for them. It was the first time I went to buy a copy and they were actually sold out in the shops. I'm really glad that it's doing as well as it is, because it's got a lot to offer. There's the genuinely intriguing crime drama about Kiryu and the origins of his story, and then there's the stupidly wacky side missions and quirky minigames. What a lot of new fans might not realise, though, is that like a lot of realistic open world games today, the world of Kamurocho is based on a real location, right in the heart of Tokyo. The Shinjuku area is one of the main big hubs of Tokyo. It's popular with tourists who visit the shops and restaurants, and it's popular with businessmen who are lured in by the cheap booze and karaoke. Right in the middle of it, though, is the small red light district called Kabukicho, literally Kabuki Town. Yakuza's Kamurocho pretty much lifts the basic skeleton of this area and tweaks parts for gameplay purposes. If we take a look at the two maps laid on top of each other, we can see that they pretty much share the same street layouts and shapes. Many areas are really easily recognisable, and fans of the series may be surprised to find that they don't even need a map to get around. Let's first jump right into the famous Red Gate. Its position, like most of the other landmarks, is exactly where it is in real life. It sits on the end of a busy street that's packed to the brim with bars, restaurants, karaoke booths, pawn shops, discos, and pretty much everything else to keep you entertained for the night. The buildings are covered by bright, colourful signage, and there's people on the street coercing you to come into their establishments. And then once you go towards the north of this road, you'll be able to turn right to Kamurocho Shopping District, or straight ahead to Theatre Square, which is called Cine City Square in real life. Theatre Square is sadly very different today than it is in the game. Currently, the building that houses the bowling alley in Yakuza has been demolished. It really changes the feel of the square, because you're not surrounded on all fours, and not to mention the stalls they were setting up on the day didn't really help either. Nevertheless, the Sega arcade still exists in the same position in real life. Although the arcade machines and games are very authentic in Yakuza, what with the UFO catchers and driving games, it doesn't quite capture the scope, and more importantly, the blaring noise you get in those places. The real-life equivalent of Nakamichi Street is also very accurate. Like in the game, this road is the main road going from Shinjuku towards the north of Kabukicho. Yakuza Zero is of course set several decades ago, so a lot of the set dressing is completely different. I have seen videos of Yakuza 6, however, and that looks to pretty much mimic the real-life area exactly. When 6 gets its Western release, I might do another comparison video, just to see how they've modernised it. And then there's Shichifuku Street, the street that goes across the map, just beyond Theatre Square. This is also somewhat faithful to its real-life counterpart. There are definitely areas which are instantly recognisable. Most notably for me was the car park with all the host posters on the side. However, it is at this point where the creators started to use a bit more creative license, as they had to condense larger parts of the city into the game world. To the very north of Kamurocho is the hotel district and the batting centre that Majima Goro loves so much. Both of these areas have been rejigged somewhat, but you can certainly see where they got their inspiration from. Due to the nature of the red light district, love hotels are in abundance here. The name of the area in-game is therefore not unwarranted. There are also several batting centres in Kabukicho. None of them look exactly like the ones in-game, but you know, creative license and all that. Near the middle of the map, there's Little Asia. There's this tiny area within Kabukicho that has small shack-like restaurants, places that could maybe sit 2 people at once. There are also this kind of noticeable Chinese aesthetic to the decorations. Like in the game, this area is pretty much just a collection of small alleyways in between buildings. Now, I only noticed this after rewatching the footage that I took when I got home, but I'm pretty sure I walked past what would have inspired Elder Chen's restaurant in Yakuza Zero. And whilst we're on the topic of narrow alleyways, let's talk about the Champion District. I'm pretty sure that this area is based on the place known as Golden Gai. Golden Gai is one of my favourite places in Tokyo. It's essentially a cluster of 5 or so alleyways which are packed with tiny bars. It looks almost Blade Runner-esque and kind of sci-fi dystopian. The in-game area doesn't really capture the claustrophobia and density of Golden Gai, but it still is a really good place to see. It's got the large array of DIY bar signs and the small connecting mini alleyways that join up the larger alleyways. Then there are the two minor roads in Yakuza, Pink Street and Sendyo Avenue. Both streets are very similar to their real-life counterparts, especially Sendyo Avenue, which has the same building and the same street barriers. Even the smaller landmarks in these areas have been accounted for. Did you ever notice the random castle in the middle of Kamurocho? Well, that exists in real life too. And right next to it is the shrine that probably inspired the one in game that the clowns stand next to. Don Quixote, the department store / megamart, is also in its real life location, with pretty much exactly the same shopfront. The same goes for the tunnel entrances which lead down to the underground shopping centre. So that's about it for the tour of Kabukicho and Kamurocho. But what about the areas that I haven't mentioned? Some places have, from what I can tell, simply been put in for variety and gameplay reasons. There doesn't seem to be many, if any, playground parks in Kabukicho. Kamurocho shopping district obviously doesn't exist in real life either, as the whole plot of Yakuza Zero, no spoilers, don't worry, revolves around the city's plan to revitalise the area and build the Millennium Tower which we see in the later games. Sadly, that building doesn't exist in real life either. The whole northeast area has also been largely made up. I suspect the big wall's been put in there to act as a sort of barrier for the map. The park that's in this area of the game also isn't there in real life. I haven't been to many of the parks in Tokyo, but it did remind me of Yoyogi Park, especially with its large homeless population and tarp tents. Everything else though is pretty much as is. I definitely recommend anyone visiting Tokyo to visit Kabukicho. I've heard some people are scared of the area, but despite the apparently large underworld presence, you're not going to get accosted on the street. Even at night, the area is bustling with tourists and can be a great spot as long as you keep your wits about you. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll also be uploading another video going through the areas in Sotenbori, so please check it out if you've enjoyed this video.